You and I are standing on a cave right now. Come take the tour, and if it wasn't worth the $8, you don't have to pay. My dad came down after the Second World War. You just step back into 1795 when you took that step.
Oh.
Over here we have what has been purported to us has been the old post office. And here are the old log books. Tell me what year this one is from or where these guys laid. I figure the guy that buried this stuff in the floor over here didn't make it out either, or he would have taken the stuff with him and introduced themselves as head of the Tennessee. I don't know how much of this we can talk about.
Many people are familiar with Dollywood's grist mill to get their famous hot cinnamon bread, or the old mill in Pigeon Forge that is the most photographed mill in the world. But on today's adventure, we're going to bring you on a tour of Blowing Cave Mill off a back road in Sevierville, Tennessee. You'll hear about the history of the mill from Gary, who will explain the history of the area and what mills were originally used for, as we go into their general store that is open to the public to purchase things like fudge, classic ice cream bars, sodas, and much more. He'll share about his father, who was one of the first candy makers in Gatlinburg, and how the area has grown since. We'll take you on a tour of the mill, which you can also do for $8 a person, and get a behind-the-scenes look at how this mill operates. You'll also hear how Gary discovered a treasure within the mill and even see blood stains on the floor from when the mill was used as a makeshift hospital at one point. So from downtown Sevierville near the Dolly Parton statue, it's about a 20-minute drive to get to Blowing Cave Mill. You just drive down Newport Highway towards Bush's Beans Visitor Center until you get to Blowing Cave Road, and you'll be taking a right. The mill is not very far up on the left. Once you arrive, we recommend parking in these spots to the left and then walking across this bridge to get inside.
Good morning. We're here at Blowing Cave Mill with Gary. He is the owner who has taken this mill and brought it back to life. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning.
We're hoping you can just show us around to what you've done and give us a little bit of the history.
I'll be happy to. My association with old mills comes from the fact that I grind 40,300 pounds of corn every 5 days for Old Smoky Moonshine Distillery.
Okay.
I have multiple mills, more than just this one, but this is my favorite because this is the oldest mill. Long about 1795, there was 3 guys came through here out of Pennsylvania. They were German-speaking Pennsylvania Dutch. It was illegal to be in this part of the country. The United States had gained its independence from Britain, but didn't have the manpower to monitor anything west of the Alleghenies. So the British still had control of this. That's why you have English Mountain and a lot of things named for the English people. The 3 fellows that came through here liked the area and decided to stay. And the British, in order to try to run them out, basically hired the Indians that were in the area to kill anybody that came into this area. The Indians would scalp the people, and then the British would pay for each scalp.
Wow.
They got in here and they kind of got established, and this was one of their first projects. This was a tub mill. In this section right over here, the water comes from what's called Flat Creek, and it comes out of a rock about 500 or 600 yards up the road. Half of it comes this way, and half of it comes over there that you can see. So it was an ideal place for a mill. So they built a tub mill, and they also went down the road and built a cemetery. It's called Fox Cemetery now, but it used to be the New Dutch Cemetery up until a few years ago.
Okay.
This side of the cemetery, they come in this way, they built a Lutheran church. And then behind the Lutheran church, coming this way some more, they built a fort. The fort was a mechanism for settlers to come in at night primarily and have a defense. Mm-hmm. And then that way they could go out during the day and settle their homesteads. Now, Mark Fox was one of the first people buried down there in about 1797, and he was killed and scalped by the Indians here on Muddy Creek. But they persevered, and it progressed, and The mill and mills in general at that time, which were numerous, weren't for ladies to make biscuits and cornbread with. The mills existed for the moonshine industry.
Okay.
Behind you, across that hill, is Cosby, Tennessee. That's the moonshine capital of the world by reputation. My mom's family was pretty much no count. Um, they were in the moonshine business. My four great grandfathers, got to go back, came out of Scotland, and he was able to get a still through. He tried to go through England, and they wouldn't let him on the ship with the still. So
Mm.
he went back to Scotland, refashioned it into luggage, and came through
Hmm.
France.
Okay.
An interesting thing happened there. Their names was Marples, Marples.
Okay.
French authorities left the R out, and that's how the Maples, Maples, got to this part of the country.
Interesting.
It is. Established themselves uh, and worked their way this way, looking for the ideal place to operate a moonshine still. And there was not just them, there were numerous. You and I are standing on a cave right now. The cave goes from right where the creeks converge here for about 7 miles.
Is that Forbidden Caverns?
Forbidden Caverns is an arm off of the main cave.
Okay. Okay.
Out at the end of the fence, you can see that there's two holes, one at the base of the tree and one down there almost level with, not quite level with the road, but you can get into the cave that way.
Really?
Well, it was a playground when we were kids. You could, once you have to crawl about 50 yards or so on your hands and knees, but then there's a rope in there that goes down 50 feet. And when you get down, it's just a giant cathedral. It's just huge. It's open. The stalagmites and the stalactites are just awesome. And the Indians had been in there for many years and had written all over the walls, all their different drawings.
Really?
But when the leaves fell off the trees, the moonshiners went inside so they couldn't be detected.
Mm.
And when you crawl in there, there's lots of spare stills and moonshine parts still in there today.
Wow. How long has it been since you've been in there?
4 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My age kind of caught up with me. The last time I was in there, that 50-foot rope looked a lot taller than it used to.
I bet.
So, anyway, we really try to verify things because things get a little bit sketchy.
Sure.
And we know that as time progressed and as the population increased, the need for more mills popped up, or at least more grain popped up.
Mm-hmm.
The mountains were full of moonshiners.
Mm.
And we know that this portion, say from the Rosenthal sign over, was the original portion to the mill. It went under from a tub mill to a full-blown grist mill about 1820. But even though some of the accounts are sketchy, the mill burned at some point and was rebuilt again. And long about 1880, there was a guy whose last name was Early, came through this area, and he was a mill guy. And there were 3 mills built that are supposedly identical. That's this mill, the Mingus Mill in Cherokee, North Carolina, and the old mill in Pigeon Forge.
Okay.
The difference being the Mingus Mill and the mill in Pigeon Forge are turbine mills, and this was the only overshot water wheel.
Okay.
Now, prior to that time, it's had a lot of different things happen here. Um, we know that there was upstairs in the mill was used at least for a period of time as a post office, and we've had accounts. We're lucky to have the log books that you'll see in a little while.
Mm-hmm.
The log books were just a day-to-day history of the mill, and this portion of the mill here was built in sections later on. But what we understand is this portion of the mill was destroyed in the early 1920s in a flood, and it had been built back occasionally in different areas until we went and about 10 years ago, we built back what you see right now. A lot of the parts inside are salvaged parts from that flood that we're being able to pick up and reuse.
That's amazing. So a lot of it has its original parts in this building.
Yes,
Okay.
especially the ceiling, the floor, and the back counter.
So anyone can come out here and tour the mill. What are your hours that you guys are open?
We're basically here from 9:30 until 6 o'clock,
Okay. And
closed on Sunday.
closed on Sunday. And
Mhm.
anyone can do a tour. How much is the tour to
The
do?
tours are $8 per person. Children under 6 are free. I've got an interesting thing I do.
Okay.
You come take the tour, and if it wasn't worth the $8, you don't have to pay.
Okay. Money guaranteed, huh?
It's guaranteed.
I'm sure it's worth the $8, maybe more.
Well, we'll see.
Well, can you show us the store?
Sure, come
Okay.
on.
Are these the original doors that were on here?
No, these are not the original doors. These doors came out of Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Okay.
They came off of a drugstore down there.
Okay.
And we're told that they were the original drugstore doors off the fellow that invented the formula for Coca-Cola.
Oh, wow.
And that's why you see those on there.
Well, they are fascinating. Love them.
What we have in here is a recreation of what an old store, this old store might have looked like many years ago. Items you see, a lot of them have been here for a long time. And during the flood, when the water started rising, a lot of it was packed up and moved to the higher floors. And we've been able to unpack and save. That's what happened to the log books.
So would
You
that
can
be
s-
everything here?
That'd be, well, let's not say everything. Let's
Mhm.
say at least 50%.
50%.
And the other things have been brought in, just things that represent the time and the things that people might have really needed back there, just the basics.
Mhm.
My dad was the first candy maker in Gatlinburg. And what I've done over here is recreated a small candy shop
Okay.
that's pretty much like what we would operate out of. And you can see his original kettles and things up there.
This is your dad up here.
That's my dad up there. Yeah.
What was the candy shop that was in Gatlinburg that he worked at?
There were different ones. Originally, it was called Fireside Candies, and you can see right here. And this is the guy that my dad worked for. And after the Second World War, he had relocated to Gatlinburg during the Second World War. And my dad came down after the Second World War and was the candy maker. And that's where he got his start in about 1946 or 7, somewhere in that range. And then in 1952, 3, 4, that shop right up there in that picture, that was the old Aunt Mahalia's candy. That's him there pulling stick candy. Candy in Gatlinburg has, that's has grown into quite an industry. It's one of the major things there.
Yeah.
And so that's why we felt it was important. I wanted to do it in remembrance of my dad. He was a really fine fella. We're going to make candy just like it was
Mhm.
45, 50 years ago, or even longer than that, actually.
So what are some of those old, fun, classic candies that you hope to have?
Well, taffy, peanut brittle, stick candy, fudge, pecan log, things that were indicative of what you see now pretty much in Gatlinburg.
Okay. I know this stove is special too.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, well, that was my grandmother's wedding present.
It looks pristine.
It's been really in good shape. It's been taken care of. Of course, it's been inside its whole life.
Does it still work?
It would. We've got it just leaned up against the wall. We're not going to plan on using
Sure.
it.
No pun intended.
It would. It would. Back on this wall here, can you show me some of your favorite pieces that were?
Sure. What you see is pretty much a recreation of what an old store would have been. There's everything from canning jars that you can see right there to different kind of canned vegetables. Up on top, we have different things that were a part of an old store. A patent medicine section over here. It's fun to look at the patent medicine because most of it is 80% alcohol.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's fun things up there like Mother's Friend, 80% alcohol. It says makes childbirth a pleasure. I guess
Probably.
you just drink the bottle and have at it.
Yeah.
So, there would have been more hardware items. We're just limited in space what we can offer.
Sure.
There are, of course, there was probably hardly a house in this whole area that didn't have old oilcloth tablecloths on their tables at one time.
It's wonderful. I love seeing all this old vintage products. That's amazing.
Yeah,
It really brings you back in time.
it does. There's just things that are, well, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to sell the experience of an old store. That's why we have the bottled soft drinks and the old style ice cream, and everything that we're trying to do is just old school.
Mm-hmm. I see you got the old chewing gums.
Mm-hmm.
And what are some of those fun old ice creams that you guys offer?
The ice creams, the best thing that we have over here, we have brown cows, the old style on the stick. They have Nutty Buddies, and folks that have been around a while know what those are.
Yes, yes.
Ice cream sandwiches, things like that. That goes along with the bottled soft drinks, and I think everybody's heard of. They get an RC and a moon pie, and that's why we tried to, again, just recreate the experience of what was.
The classics. Are you up for touring, giving us the mill tour?
We can go in the mill right now.
Wonderful.
Old mills are very unforgiving, so watch your step.
Okay.
You just step back into 1795 when you took that step.
Oh, that's
Come on
wonderful.
in. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Amazing.
Now, it's undergone 3 major renovations. First was a tub mill, the 1820s, roughly. Renovation. This was all wood gears at one time.
Okay.
By the 1880s, these metal gears took place of a lot of the wood gears. Some of the gears are still wood, and the reason for that is it just makes a smoother transition between the belt, which this shaft is the corn mill, the grist stones right there. This one right here, that you see over your head, the white, those are French stones. Those where the flour is done.
And you
But
said
pretty much the rock and the wood have been here for just a long, long time. Of course, everything's held together by wood pegs. You know, that's just the way it was. And you can see them in the wood different
yes.
places. There was no
See this, right?
iron used hardly at all.
That's amazing. So you still mill your corn for Old Smoky here.
Yeah.
Are you able to show us that process?
We could. The problem that we have is right now we've been working on the big wheel outside. They've done some changing, and we've not ground on that for about 3 months now. And we can turn the wheel on, and I'll have Michael do that.
Okay.
If you want to wait just a sec?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Why don't we go through the rest of the meal, and we'll come back down through here, and you'll be able to see how all of this works.
That sounds great. Okay.
Again, watch your step going up through here. You're on the mill floor right now. You looked at the bottom of these gears, these wheels just a minute ago. This be the French stones, and this right here's the grist stones that does the corn.
Okay.
And on the walls, you can see some of the things that were left here, have been here for quite a while. You'll notice these belts, these little buckets. This is how you transport the corn and the finished products through this place. This actually was the bagging table, the last stage, where after it's gone through the sifter, it would bring the product down, and then they would bag it right here.
Okay.
This is generally where the corn would go up, and it would be cleaned. Then it would come back down, and it would be spilled into these hoppers where it would actually be ground. And grinding's kind of a misnomer. You didn't grind corn, you cut corn
Okay.
and expose the starch inside. There's a little tolerance wheel right here. This right here, I can adjust the stones down to about a 32nd of an inch, very small.
Okay.
Over here we have what has been purported to us has been the old post office, one of the original post offices. And I told you a while ago about some of the things were saved, and here are the old log books. And that's all of they're lined up over there. You'll just tell me what year this one is from.
I don't have my glasses.
Okay.
Oh, they're 1872.
Okay. You can see how they had a really nice language and things right there
Yes.
when they, and the beauty of this is everything, this is a recorded history of about everything that happened here. And there was a guy named John Crockett that came through here and was asking for fellows to go out and help his boy. He was fighting the Mexicans out in Texas. And 4 of the guys from the community signed up. They're on the books, and they've never come back. They were killed at the Alamo. Later, Colonel Jackson came through the area, same way, and asked for 25 Tennessee volunteers to go help him in New Orleans. Well, 138 showed up, and they all went to New Orleans, and they're all logged in the books. And they all came back. Not a one of them were killed in the Battle of New Orleans.
Okay.
And Andrew Jackson, he was so thankful for the Tennessee folks that had fought that he later sent a proclamation down here thanking the Tennesseans for their role in the Battle of New Orleans. Now, let's fast forward again to the Civil War. Very little Civil War activity in this area. You got the mountains, and it's just you can't have a decent fight. But there was one called the Battle of Fair Garden. This community was called Fair Garden at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Again, as we understand it, General Grant had sent General Sturgis to come down and try to disrupt the rail traffic in Knoxville. There was a cavalry battle that took place called the Battle of Fair Garden out here, and about 300 men were killed. Mm-hmm. But they commandeered this building and turned it into a field hospital. When we go upstairs, you can see where the men were laid out on the floor, and you'll see the blood stains on the floor where they were, and several have died up there as well. The only other thing that's kind of interesting is they couldn't stock everything that was offered, but this is, for instance, covered for wagons. If you were wanting to have a wagon, you could order this stuff. All of these old catalogs are still here, like old stoves. If you wanted a cook stove or whatever, you could order things from here. But the log books, these are what's great because of the age of the log books. And the thing that impresses us is the handwriting and how great the cursive writing. And it's not going to show up well because this is very, very old. We're looking at a couple of 100+ year old stuff here.
It's beautiful. We don't have that same beauty in our writing today. That's for sure.
No, it's quite good. Come on, follow me.
The history of this place is fascinating.
Well, you can see how worn the floors are and so forth. These are the elevators. These things right here, this is how you lift the millstones to sharpen them.
Okay.
You have to keep the rocks sharp to cut the grain. And this is totally, as you can touch it, it's all wood. That's all it is. It's just that thing was carved like
That's
you see
amazing.
right there. But that's how you lift these stones.
I have a mill at home that I mill wheat and make bread and muffins and stuff, but this is way more fascinating. Mine you just plug in.
Well, come on up. This is the sifter. This is where the grain's sifted and goes through all of those boxes and belts that you saw downstairs.
Mhm.
And we didn't replace any of these wood gears because they operate so smoothly. This is how you separate when you grind the corn. Of course, everything comes from the corn, and that's what we've tried to say here. Um, and the folks that had the corn first were the Indians. And you see, because there was a heavy Indian presence here, when we started construction of different things, we found these old stones and we found a lot of other things, paraphernalia the Indians have left. But these are the folks that are responsible for the corn. This is my grandmother's kitchen.
Wow.
You can see a couple hundred, 150 years ago what items they had to use. And this is an old wood stove.
Is that a waffle
It is.
maker?
Yeah, it is. And I told you about my four great grandfathers coming from Scotland. And the fact that he had to cut the steel up in order to get it on the ship
Yeah.
to get it here. This is it.
Okay. So he got it here and put it back
He got
together.
it here and put it back together. And that started the moonshine industry. And it stayed in the family for a long time. We didn't like folks to know because we were embarrassed by it. It's not like it is now, real popular on TV, but it was a cash crop. We had to transport it, and so we'd always have what we called the Midnight Express, and that's where me and my cousins hauled it to Asheville, North Carolina, and we only had one buyer. That's the only way it worked. But to get to Asheville, we had 7 spotters. We'd get up to the Williams house, and if the coast was clear, we would keep going. If the flag was up on the mailbox, we had to divert. And they were paid, but that was your lifeblood to get your product where it was going. When we got up there, we were out of gas by then, and we came back on the bus. They brought our cars back on the flatbed.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It
isn't
is crazy. And today, I mean, am I right that Old Smoky is part of your family?
What happened over the years? By 1965, roughly, we were out of the moonshine business. There are package stores all over the place, and you know, we had kept bits and pieces of the moonshine business alive. Occasionally, maybe make Christmas liquor or something just for the fun of it. But I had gotten into the go-kart and bumper boat business over in Pigeon Forge when tourists started coming there and we wanted attractions. And I used the alcohol as a fuel additive. I'd burn about 1/3 alcohol. It burns your engines cleaner because the alcohol burns so hot.
Okay.
I still have an original still, but I had a license for it. You can see the giant 20-foot, 28-foot columns that are still there. Once the leaves off the trees, you can see them real easy. And what we were doing, we were making alcohol. We had just stumbled on to those giant columns. I'd gotten them out of a salvage yard and didn't want to cut them, so I assembled them. And what was interesting was, along with the stainless columns, they had a bunch of ceramic saddles that look like this. Just looks like your finger like that. And we packed those saddles where we'd used in the past to pack with copper pot scrubbers. we could pack the columns with these. And as the vapor would rise, the ceramic saddles would collect the water around it. And as it traveled higher and higher and higher, the heavier water fell back down and the lighter alcohol traveled up. And there was a laboratory down in Oak Ridge called Galbraith Laboratories, and we took the alcohol down there just to get it analyzed. And they said it was almost impossible to get anhydrous alcohol, but he said it was the highest proof he'd ever seen, but it was by luck. It's just because of those tall columns. And we got to sell into several different companies that added it as fuel additive.
Okay.
And some of the alcohol industry that you made blended whiskeys, as well as the wine industry that made some of the different wines that require a little bit more of a kick of alcohol. And we were fooling with that when there was a guy came up to the still one day and asked us if we could build his daughter a still, that they had a lot of hickory cane corn down in Straw Plains. And I said, why, yeah. So I built him a still. And about a year later, he came back with another fella and introduced themselves as head of the Tennessee. I don't know how much of this we can talk about. The head of the state and the head of the Senate. And they told me they were going to approve micro distilleries in Tennessee. So I was aware that they were going to do that. So we started working on getting licensed and setting up the manufacture of alcohol. And that's how Old Smoky Moonshine Distilleries came into be. Joe Baker is actually the guy with Old Smoky Moonshine Distilleries. And we were able to manufacture and sell moonshine under Old Smoky Moonshine Distilleries about 3 years before anyone else come on the scene. There's several of them now.
Yeah.
But the tools you see on the wall, these are just tools that were left here. To form the United States, to make this country, you basically had 4 tools. You had the froe, you had the broad axe, you had the foot adze, you had the draw knives. And these are the tools that all of this was built by.
Wow.
And it's they've been very well used over the years. A lot of this stuff, these are the sharpening hammers that sharpen the stones down to that grinds the mill. These are sorghum and molasses paddles that you make different, either the sorghum or the molasses. Now, we didn't use the sorghum or the molasses for alcohol production. That was pretty much eaten.
Still amazed that these are made of wood.
Yeah, totally out of wood. But I've left them alone because they run a lot smoother.
Yeah.
And you can just easily with your hand turn the thing. But that shaft is turned out of the bottom. This shaft turns this thing right here. And this goes on up through the ceiling to the top, to the culmination of the process. We'll get to that. But these gears turn these shafts, which turns inside, and the sifters are in here. And this is how it's sifted into, if it's corn, it's cornmeal, then grits, then rough, what we use as cattle feed after that.
Okay.
And it goes in these boxes right here and goes into those boxes that go downstairs, those elevators a while ago. So we've talked about the British had hired the Indians to try to help control the population. And when we started doing construction in the area, we found all of these Indian artifacts here, just like the ones over on the other side where the lady was grinding corn a minute ago in the window. We put them on display just to kind of show who was here and what was here.
Yes.
The next thing we're going to look at is we had some water damage on the outside of the building at one time, and we were repairing that. I told the guys I'm going to go in and pull up one of the short boards right here and see if we had damage inside. When I pulled the boards up, I first thought it was a rat's nest. I shined my light down there and stuck my hand down there, and it was a packet of letters. In addition to the letters, just about the size of your fist rolled up was a roll of money. I started taking everything out. I found 4 pictures. They were little small daguerreotypes. They're on glass. I found some gold coins, other old coins. I found some Confederate postage stamps.
Wow.
We've put them on display right here. As you can see, these 4 pictures, this was he with his sword right there. And I assume this has been his family right here. The money we've laid out now, but you can see like this is printed over in Blount County, so it's not too far from here. A lot of it is. And all of the little balls we found in a keg out at the base of a tree we had to cut down. It was explained to me that these were used to pack a cannon with when you're in infantry battles so they could spread out and inflict more damage.
What a
We're
treasure.
Oh, we're lucky to have this. I mean, just the gold coin alone that you see right here, and all of these coins, are about like in the 1850s.
Amazing.
Along about 1912, cottage industries came to Gatlinburg. As I've been told, Gatlinburg was kind of remote because no roads into it. You had horse trails and things of that nature. And it was a selection between the Pi Beta Phi fraternity, other cities, as to where they would try to come in and help people. But they came into Gatlinburg and established Pi Beta Phi and later their Aramont stores. And they taught the mountain ladies and men how to do cottage industries, different things. And all of a sudden, the people had a new cash source. It's pretty much if you didn't catch it, grow it, or kill it, you didn't eat in this area. We see everything that's out here now, but it wasn't like that. And it's not been that long ago that it was a very isolated and remote area. When Pi Beta Phi did come and start teaching crafts and things, most of the folks had to build their own looms. So you can see it's a hand-built loom. And this is actually my grandmother weaving on this loom. And you can see the products they were doing. Like she made these purses right here, and they sold at the Aramont store. And the men, of course, they were great carvers, and they did a lot of woodworking things. And as tourists did start coming to the area, they wanted to buy that. So it was a great source of income for mountain families.
Yep.
Then kind of after the Second World War, of course, the park had been established. My grandparents were run out of the park. They were paid to leave the park and the park be established, and which has brought tons of people to the area since that time. Kind of an interesting thing in the floor right there. I had some guys come to me and say that during the Depression that they moved the National Fiddlers Convention to Knoxville, Tennessee to be a little closer to the population of the country. A couple of guys came and got my grandfather and entered him into the competition. And on the last day, it was just the guy that had won it 7 years in a row, and my grandfather left. And the champion got to go first because you've heard the saying, you don't play second fiddle to people, and he went first and played the hardest song for a fiddler to play. And they said it just brought the house down. They were there in Knoxville. And they told my grandfather, said, now you hear what's going on. He's won it for 7 years. You don't have to go out if you don't want to. And he said, no, these boys have brought me all the way from Gatlinburg, like it's California or somewhere. Said, I'm going to play. And so he went out there. Well, he'd never seen that many people at one time. And he looked around and he froze. He didn't move a muscle. He had never been in an environment like that. And they were whispering behind the curtain for him to come back, come back. And finally, he looked at his fiddle and he looked at his bow and put them behind his back and played the same song and won the National Fiddlers Contest that year. The next morning in the Knoxville News Sentinel, he's on the front page with the McCall boys carrying the prizes. Because it was in the Depression, there was not a money prize, but local merchants had given suits and shoes and clothes and things like that.
Right.
And his picture was captured on the newspaper. So the mountain people, think about it. There was no TV, there was no radio, and that was their source of amusement. There wasn't even books, hardly at all. The mountain people were, when Pi Beta Phi opened the school, you know, you can find this out, the figures, and be more accurate, but they opened the school and they anticipated a small number of students. Instead, they had 3 or 4 or 5 times what they normally had, or thought they were going to have anyway.
Sure. Well, I love that story. That's a fascinating story about.
That is.
That was your grandfather, you
That
said?
was my
Your
grandfather.
grandfather.
Yeah. His name was James Lawson Maples.
Used to be Marples, now Maples.
And we used to be
Right.
Marples, and he became a Maples. Yeah, way down the line, he became that.
Oh, yes, the blood stains.
Oh, you can see the blood stain. Well, we've got them covered up a lot with the different. They had them lined out in the center because they could work around the perimeter, and you don't see as much in here because we've built over the top of it. But the men were laid out, not the circles, but the different areas in here, underneath here, are where these guys laid. I figured the guy that buried this stuff in the floor over here didn't make it out either, or he would have taken the stuff with him.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Let's move back down.
Sounds good.
You get an idea of the gears moving now. They were stationary a while ago.
I forgot to ask you, where do you put the corn in to start?
Back up there where the hoppers, those big stones, where they go in the hoppers.
Right in there,
right on
in
the
the top. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Again, watch your step. It's easy to fall. This is an 1890s peanut roaster right here. We'll be roasting peanuts.
Okay.
If you want to step a little bit closer, we're going to set this still up. You're looking at a 40-gallon still, a typical still here in the Smokies. The reason they're 40 gallons is because they're easy to move. You have 2 boards basically that are cut out to fit that, so you can pick that thing up and move it. Now, why do you do that? It's because revenuers are coming to get you.
And you're going to do demonstrations for people on that
I'm
still?
wanting to.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool. That'd be the old school right there.
Yeah.
And we could use it for rubbing alcohol or something else
Yeah.
rather than drinking.
Sure.
This is an old cantilever barn that's under construction. This came about 4 miles from here down on Seton Springs. And it's just a typical old mountain cantilever barn. And we're going to put a small bakery right here with fried apple pies. And then the other side's going to be a apple cider mill. We have the old equipment that we'll set up and do that.
Okay.
The wheel, as you see, you saw how fast it was grinding or moving inside at that speed that it does right there. The milk wagon out here is kind of an interesting thing.
Okay.
I was watching the Moonshiner channel on TV one night, and the guy was from Allegheny and Olean, New York. And he was delivering milk up there. But what he was doing was milk was on the perimeter and moonshine was in the center. He was actually bootlegging milk, legally on the milk, but bootlegging alcohol inside.
Gotcha.
And he got caught and they confiscated it. So I watched the credits at the end of the show and found out who had it. It was up in Virginia. I was able to go up there and buy it, and bring it back down here because we had milk wagons similar to that in the area.
Okay.
So it's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is sell, like I said, experiences.
Right.
Everything is bottled soft drinks and just the old style bottles that Now, just try to give you an experience of what it was like as
Yes.
far as ice cream and items go.
Yeah. And this is what you envision this looked like back then.
Probably close,
Close.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You get a picture of what life was like in these mountains before anybody really came in here. It gives you an insight on how these mountain people lived. They weren't stupid. They were really smart folks in order to survive in the environment that they had to. It's just like the cabins we looked at out there. You know, the corners, when you lay those cabins, you just couldn't stack them up one on top of the other. They had to do the joints. And a lot of these structures, when they, with compound angles on the ends, when they put that thing in, it locked. And so the thing wasn't going to fall down.
Right.
And using the wood pegs and the wood nails, basically they were hickory. They'd soak them in water and then they'd swell up and then they wouldn't come out. So got a deep admiration for the people that lived here many, many, many years ago. Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Sevierville, and this area all have a great history when you get down to it. I mean, 2 minutes from here is Bush Beans. You know, as I understand it, they're the largest manufacturer of baked beans in the world and a great restaurant.
Yes.
Good place to eat over there. And they have a museum over there. And it's just like the cavern being open to the public where you can get a real good vision of what the cavern looks like.
Thank you, Gary, for the incredible tour and all the history of the mill and the area. We absolutely loved it, and we encourage everybody to come on out and visit. Again, you guys are here 9:30 to 6, Monday through Saturday.
Yes.
And if people want to come out, they can come to see you. They can come out to the caverns. They could make a trip over to the trout farm or even go out to the Bush's Beans factory as well. There's a lot to see in this area.
There is. You can easily spend a half or a little bit better of a day, have a leisurely stroll through what this area was really about.
Yes.
Before kind of what we see now.
Sure.
As far as commercial development's concerned.
Yeah.
If you're interested in the history of this area and how it developed, yeah, it's a fun place to come visit.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having us out. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you.
And I actually hope to come back again and hear some more stories.
I look forward to you coming back.
If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next adventure.